Thank you for hosting me. Just a quick introduction for those that don't know me. I'm Magnus Svensson. I work as a strategic technical advisor, technical solution architect at the company called Eyevinn Technology. We're independent streaming, or I would say media consultants, working with media technology from, I would say, from production, from cameras until the devices. We help customers across the Nordics, Europe and North America, and we have been growing in North America since the pandemic, and it's actually probably one of our biggest markets now, except for the Nordics. We're 26 employees, all based in Stockholm, working remotely from our Stockholm site. We're working at site, and most of the customers are working remotely. I think we're 16 years or 13 years old now, so we're getting there, 15, 12. So, moving into my presentation today, I will talk about a short introduction of media technology today, where I see where media is working today, a little bit of the competition. Then I will come into the orchestration, which is the main topic of my presentation. I will talk a little bit about our initiatives around open source, because I think we can do a lot in open source. And this presentation has evolved during the month. I've been working on it and presenting it a couple of times. And and the more time flies, I will get more and more AI into the presentation. And we're working quite heavily with AI and get AI into the picture. And I will actually break out from the presentation in halfway through and actually do a live demo of what AI can help us with. It's a bit scary because you never know what Claude decides to do. So you can't really prepare. All you can do is ask Claude to do something, and he will sort of do what he wants. And then I'll round off with a few of my more future thoughts of where I see AI and television and the media industry will go. If you look at the media industry today, I would say it's very much quite a big mess being a streaming provider today, where you want to mix different technologies coming in. Everybody works in small silos. Everybody comes with their own technology, proprietary technology. I would say that the streaming media is not simple, even if you can believe so. We had a lot of customers coming to us during the pandemic and say, we want to live stream, we want to do live streaming, how hard can it be? And yeah, it is hard. I will also say that we have a fairly good of technology pipelines. We have production working very isolated from distribution and media supply. Production is produced working with non-compressed format, SDI, and then we deliver that in 8 megabits in the end anyway. So there might be some things to do here. We also have a media supply chain, we have distribution. I think all these three pipelines are sort of working in isolation, which I don't think is really necessary, which I will come back to that. I think we need to start working backwards from what is delivered and to produce in the format that is needed. If you look at the competition of what we're facing today as a media industry, we have Hollywood producing around 15,000 hours of movies every year, movie and series. And compare that with that every day there is 700,000 hours uploaded to YouTube of user-generated content. They don't work with SDI, they don't work with a lot of quite hard program or hard technology standards and all these things. They are a little bit leaner. So what I usually say is that the TikTok, YouTubes, they are real-time video engines. They're just producing content, and they're doing it in a very simple format. They're working a lot with automation. They're working a lot with feedback loops, and their cost of producing content is not close to what the traditional media companies are working with. Coming into the media technology landscape, we have, I would say, we're getting there now. I see a lot of movements towards media technology moving into interoperability. I spent a week in Geneva a couple of weeks ago talking to the EBU members, and they're now working quite actively together with a lot of you from BBC and others to actually standardize and make things a little bit simpler in video production, also with open source. We have AI coming in, and I will come to that. And I would say what I spent most of my times now during the last year or 2 years has been automation and making the video pipelines cheaper. I would say that I would like to turn things backwards, like I said. Start from what deliveries should be made to the clients. Is it 6 megabits of 70 or 1080p or whatever it is? Maybe we don't need uncompressed format quite far into the pipeline, because it's usually just there for storage in the end. So try to make it a little bit more modular, try to do it a little bit more open and building blocks instead. So we're talking about something called, what I call media orchestration. It's a software-based technology from camera to the TV device. You have a hardware in the beginning, you have a hardware in the end. In the middle, it should be software-based. Am I back? I think I need to restart this every now and then. Anyway, it's hardware. So we also believe a lot in building things with cloud agnostic architecture. Maybe it's even more interesting now when we see the world is changing a little bit. Maybe you don't want to put all the eggs in an American cloud base or somewhere else.
Hello, there we go.
Thank you. We'll go like this. So I would say try to, I don't say that we should avoid American clouds or anything like that, but I would say that put your eggs in that basket knowing what you're doing and knowing that you can leave it if you want to, or if you need to by cost reasons or political reasons or tax reasons or what it might be. So what do we do when it comes to modern based workflows? So I'm talking about cloud agnostics, I'm talking about open APIs. I will come more into open source and finally get AI to work for you. So cloud agnostic, I talked about it already. Let's see what we can do with, have a strategy, not just put everything in the cloud or put everything in hardware or put everything in Amazon or Google or Azure. Have a strategy, try to make it agnostic so you can move workflows around, you can put things in on-prem premises, you can put it on the cloud, you can do both, you can shift the workloads, but have a strategy and then you can decide that Amazon might be the best or Azure might be the best. Open APIs, I think, is the key to be able to do an efficient workflow. I see a lot of vendors coming in with a big machinery that you can only do these type of things with if you can take our complete package. I think you can do a lot with open APIs, and if you have open APIs, you can do workflows more efficiently. I will come to that, how we have made our AI integration is basically, you get it out of the box if you're working with open APIs. So this is an example of a media workflow or media orchestration workflow. It's a generic one that's taken from one of our customers actually, where we have built an orchestration layer in the media supply chain, where we have content coming in. We have a couple of different encoders, one open source and then a couple of licensed vendors. We have subtitling, we have automation of subtitling and translation done by AI. We do some web-based QC in the end and we ship it out, and we do that online format first, and then afterwards we create a feed for traditional distribution. This is live now, and for those of you that saw Streaming Tech Sweden, we had a demo of this where we actually are live. So most of the content for our customers is now coming out of a workflow-based, automation-based workflow for video. Open source, you can do a lot with open source. Our company has been working with open source since we started. And sort of by coincidence that have grown more and more, we also have an open source cloud now, so we can host open source component. You can spin up open source components in our cloud, and we only charge for our compute cost and a little bit of an extra overhead where we share with open source creator. So it's quite interesting as a complement or as a complement or a full work pipeline. So we usually say, imagine a cloud service where every component is built on open source. And I think video industry has been quite open to open source from the beginning. We have a lot of initiatives, including FFmpeg, that are just sort of used all over. So a couple of examples of workflows where we have built with open source. We have the transcoding and packaging pipeline. It's actually, the main component here is the SVT Encore. It's a Swedish public broadcaster that has built a sort of a wrapper around FFmpeg with queuing and these type of things, what you need. We combine that with a subtitle generator with Whisper, and we put Chaka packager in the end, and off you go to an origin storage. This can be spinned up in just a couple of minutes, and you can transcode or package a video purely with open source. We also have an open source orchestrator that is also available publicly, where you can sort of do the orchestration of these components together as open source as well. Another one is live transcoding, which is also done on FFmpeg, but we have done some wrappers around it. You can do a full live transcoding with FFmpeg and live transcoding. It works fine. Probably the most popular open source component we have built has been the fast channel engine. It's used by quite some customers across Europe and North America now, where we create fast channels in open source technology. It's a simple way of doing fast channels, is basically stitching manifest together of already transcoded VOD assets, which makes it so simple, so you can go down to have individual streams for your individual customers if you want to. I usually compare that to Spotify Weekly, your Spotify playlists, playlist channel, maybe the same thing. So, coming into modern AI automation, it's quite interesting what you can do with it. We started to play around with a concept or a technology, or I think it's started to become a standard now, called MCP, Model Context Protocol. It was invented by Claude or Anthropic. It's now adopted by OpenAI and ChatGPT and others as well. Once you have an API, it's fairly easy to build an MCP server talking to that API. So if you have an open API towards a channel engine or a streamer or whatever you might have, it's quite easy to get Claude or any other tool that is talking MCPs can actually use that. Together with a RAG and a couple of other components, you can build a very automated workflow just using natural language talking to an LLM. So what we call is, we have a media orchestration co-pilot that is helping us with everything. And now it's the time where I think I will do, I have a recorded version, so if in case Claude is not a friend with me today, I will actually go back to the recorded version, but I'll actually see if I can do a live demo instead, actually. That's funnier. So I've prepared a little bit like a cooking show. I have a Claude. I've typed in the command that I would like. I would like the help of Claude to set up a channel, a live channel with a couple of assets, and the assets is actually stored on the original already. So I have 3 already transcoded VODs. These are the URLs. It's hard to see, but it's URLs to 3 encoded videos. And I have a channel engine instance or a channel engine subscription in the open source cloud. So I have everything prepared. And let's ask Claude to set up a channel, a live channel using these assets as input, and see what happens. It could go either way. You never know. He's pondering. Okay, he prepared, he said it will help me. So let's see what he do. He's usually a little lazy, and that's probably like one of my colleagues said, you can compare it to a junior developer because he usually don't check the logs afterwards that everything is up and running. So I actually asked him to do this. So we'll see if he. Let's see. Let's check the logs. He's checking the logs now for me to see if everything is up and running. I noticed a discrepancy about the mixed audio. I usually do that. He's never really learning that one. Oh, okay, we have a channel. Let's see if that is actually true. So we should have now a channel up and running called Magnus, and we should have that. Let's see if it's here. It's here at least. So let's see if we can play this channel. This is the test that is usually, it's quite interesting to actually see if it plays. And it did. So Claude helped me to build this channel. It's actually a set of 3 VODs that will be looped. But I think with this you realize that it actually is possible to start using. So let's go back to the presentation and we can actually skip the video that I recorded. But I think this proves that you can actually do a lot with open source, and it doesn't have to be open source. As long as you have an open API with an MCP server, you can actually use Claude to talk to it. You can actually help it. It will traverse logs. It's quite funny. If you haven't played around with it, do, because you get amazed what Claude actually can do for you, or any other LLM or model in that sense. Let's see if I can. Okay, he started the video. Another example is a component we built a little bit sort of more or less by accident, where we're sitting at the Swedish rally together with the Swedish public broadcaster. And one of the engineers asked us, why can't we talk to each other with something called Discord or something like that, instead of having this clumsy intercom solutions that broadcasters are using? So we said, okay, let's do something together. So we gathered 4 of the broadcasters in the Nordics with NRK, with Swedish Television, with TV2 in Norway, and Wiley in Finland. And we developed a software-based an intercom solution that is based on WebRTC, similar to what we're using today with Teams and Zoom and these type of things, but it's just a graphical user interface. So what I'll do, I haven't prepared this as a demo, so let's watch the video. But I asked Claude, can you set up a production for me? I need 5 lines for the production, and I would like those to be available. So on the intercom side, you'll see the production will be called presentation will pop up, and now it popped up. And you can see that it have the 5 lines that I asked it to set up. So, and this is now used by a Swedish public broadcaster and a couple of others. We're installing at the CBC Radio Canada as we speak. I know we have discussions with BBC actually to start using it as well. So it's downloadable, it's open source. You can either use it in our cloud or you can download the software yourself. But it proves that by being a little bit innovative, you can actually work with open source as a base. Another example where you can use AI is analytics. Instead of having clumsy dashboards, where I spent quite some time during my years to configure a dashboard to actually show me what I actually want to see. We have played with our open analytics solution and actually did the same there. We can actually use Claude or anyone else to just ask them for what are the buffering events happening in this region, where are the biggest problems we see. Now I don't have a database that is accurate enough to actually use, but you can also, with the latest iOS release, did you see any differences when it comes to buffering times or these type of things? And Claude will, or any other AI will respond back with a result instead of you traversing dashboards. You can create dashboards afterwards, but this is the typical things you can actually do with. You get the day-to-day help where you need it. I'll round off with a couple of thoughts where I see the next step will be and where I think we'll be heading. I think it might be quite applicable to the topics of this meetup is actually where I believe that the AI will definitely move into the TV sets. They already have AI components and AI agents sitting in the TV sets that are now released. So why can't they be our traditional UI? Why can't the AI agent in the TV set find the content for you? Why do I every time one of the services I have in Sweden is the only thing I use it for is to watch soccer, and I follow one team in Sweden. So why do I every time I come home when there is a game need to go into the menu, find sports, find soccer, find my team, and then press play? Why can't it be done for me and just start playing? Because it knows that I want to watch soccer. And why do I need to negotiate price for the game? Can't the AI agent they have my credit card, they have my spending limits. Why do I need a recommendation engine when the AI agent of mine knows me better than anyone else? This will put quite some constraints on the media industry, I would say, that if the media industry start to implement MCPs or AI agent interfaces towards the services, then the UIs might be more personalized or become obsolete. This is quite interesting. You start thinking of the business model that might change as well, because if I want to see the Champions League final, or I usually take the example, once a year I would like to see the Indy 500 race. To do that in Sweden, I need to pay a monthly subscription of Viaplay for 70 euros just for that race. And I usually skip it and watch the results afterwards. But pretend that I have an AI agent that can start negotiating with a couple of different providers of Indy 500 and get me that for a cheaper price, because someone can negotiate for me and I can actually get it that way. And ensure that I have a subscription. Or, in the worst case, give me a subscription for a month and then turn it off the day after. Handle subscription management and price negotiation for me. And find the content that I'm interested in using MCPs. And I actually did a prototype during the Christmas. This is quite interesting. I asked Cursor together with Claude to implement a couple of dummy streaming services with a content catalog each, and price ranges and subscription packages. And I started to ask all of them through my agent of who can provide this Champions League final and to what price. And then that my agent or my Claude instance went out to the different MCPs, asked for if they had Champions League and to what price they were willing to offer it. And I got a price back, and they subscribed for the service. And there were no Champions League behind that prototype, but I got it, and it turned off the subscription afterwards. So I think if you start to think in these matters, that you have a sort of an assistant sitting in your TV set, finding the content you want to see, make sure you have it available when you want to see it, and make that more, instead of you traversing UIs. You probably want UIs anyway, but you can get it a little bit more personalized. You can get it served in a different way. So to round off, I would like to finalize that we have an architecture that we call the Media Orchestration Framework. It's sort of what I've talked about. You have capturing in the one end, you have the playback devices on the other end. The rest is components, software-based components steered with orchestration. And a big part of that is actually the orchestration co-pilot or the assistant that is helping out with everything from setting things up, configuring things, traversing logs, checking analytics, can actually tell us, okay, we see a problem here with iOS devices in the region of Stockholm. Maybe it's due to that there was a new iOS release yesterday. Maybe you should check that. And so a big part of our architecture is actually AI and MCP based. By that, any questions?